Welcome back, cloners, to another game of... You know what? You guys know what we do here. We try to showcase offbeat formats and lesser-known ways of playing Magic. You think by now we'd come up with something of our own. Luckily for us, Rob happened to recently be watching John Carpenter's 1982 classic horror movie, The Thing, and did come up with something of a new format. In the movie, a team of scientists led by Kurt Russell are besieged by a race of extraterrestrial body parasites that kill and clone people. It was known as the ultimate in alien terror. So, to give you a brief overview of the format before we start, it's basically an offshoot of Usurper with about 5 or 6 people playing. In The Thing, there are only 3 positions though, and like Usurper, they are assigned randomly and secretly at the start of the game. Unlike Usurper, it has different positions and different tasks for each. In this format, we have one The Thing, of course, one hero, and everyone else makes up the team of scientists. As you probably guessed, Kurt Russell is trying to find and kill the Thing. The scientists are trying to figure out who's who, all the while with the Thing trying to kill everyone. It's supposed to inspire the same confusion and level of terror as the movie. No positions are revealed at the start of the game, since anyone could be the Thing. If a scientist dies, he or she is out of the game, but if the Thing dies, he or she reveals that fact, draws 7 cards, and then doubles its starting life total and can't be attacked for an entire turn. This mimics how the Thing gets stronger when it's in danger. The scientists are able to revive Kurt Russell 1 time if he dies, but he gets no bonuses. Well, that's enough to get us started. We'll explain more rules as necessary as we go. Other than that, it's just free-for-all commander. Now, the commanders for this game are... Rob is on the left, playing his tuned Rafiq of the mini deck. Above Rob is Ronnie, playing his super aggressive Xenagos God of Revels deck. Next in turn order, we have Josh playing my Brago King Eternal deck. After him, we have Chad, who is playing Sheoldred Whispering One. Beneath him is June, playing his very graveyard-centric Karador Ghost Chieftain deck. And finally, I'm on the bottom of your screen playing my Dethrone-centric Marchesa the Black Rose deck. Okay, let's just skip opening hands and get right to it. Oh, and this game was nearly 2 hours, so we're going to have to go through it pretty quick. Try to keep up. Rob won the die roll and goes first. He starts the game by playing Seaside Citadel and passing. Everyone else just plays a land with no one having a turn 1 play. Salt Crusted Step from Rob. Ronnie has a turn 2 exploration and plays an additional land for the turn, accidentally revealing Dosin the Fallen Leaf. Josh plays the Azorius Gain a Life land, whatever it's called, Swamp from Chad, and on June's turn, he casts Commune with the Gods, revealing Necromancy, along with Bane of Progress and Mikaeus the Unhallowed, which is pretty hot. June, of course, takes the Necromancy. So now everyone knows that June can table a turn 3 Bane of Progress. So you'd think that make people pretty hesitant to play artifacts and enchantments, right? Let's see. On my turn, I cast Lightning Greaves, and sorry for that glare on my field, it's gonna be there all game. Rob adds a counter to Salt Crusted Step at my End Crusted Step. Turn 3. Rob starts his turn by casting Mana Crypt into Soul Ring, into Courser of Krufix. Okay, he just played 3 artifacts and enchantments without even blinking, and then plays a Darkar Waste from hand and gains a life from his Centaur. Rob then invents a new sword called Sword of Feast and Fire and Ice.
Sword of Feast and Fire and Ice. Go.
And casts it. Apparently, Rob is not concerned about the Bane of Progress in June's yard at all for some reason. Ronnie only plays 1 land this turn, but it's Kessig Wolfrun, which is a sweet land, and then casts Solemn Simulacrum, getting his 2nd red source. Josh scries 1 with Temple of Enlightenment on his turn. Chad does nothing other than play Swamp for the 3rd straight turn in a row. June plays Sand Step Citadel and passes, meaning he won't be able to Necromancy this turn. On my turn, I cast Preordain, leaving Necropotence on top, and then casting Nightscape Familiar, equipping it with Lightning Greaves, and then attacking June for 1 damage since he's open. Turn 4. Rob suits up the Centaur with his sword. He decides not to attack June, since they suddenly became buddies or something, and then decides to attack the guy who has literally done the least this game so far, Chad. Josh at least scryed, so that's still more than what Chad did. Chad takes 4 damage, and Rob deals 2 damage to Ronnie's robot with his sword combat effect. Ronnie draws a card when the robot dies. Rob plays Corrosion Verge and gains 1 life. Ronnie casts the Good Garrick on his turn and makes a 3/3 beast. Josh plays a loaded up Sarah Ascendant on his turn 4. Chad finally gets into this game on his turn 4 by casting Cryptghast. Kind of a bold play when there's a Sophie on the table right now. June also makes a bold play on his turn when he declines to play lands so that he can discard Woodfall Primus at his end step. Okay, now check this out. Woodfall Primus and Necromancy is a bit of a combo here. June's going to be able to flash into Necromancy, blow something up, and then at the end of the turn, when the Necromancy falls off, the Primus will die and then come back with the Persist and blow something up again. So that's pretty hot. We'll see what he decides to go after. On my turn 4, I cast my commander, Marchesa the Black Rose. I then Greaves up Marchesa and go to the attack phase when June casts Necromancy, returning Woodfall Primus to play and blows up my Lightning Greaves. June claims he did that because
she attacked me.
So yeah. I then attack Rob with the Familiar since he's on the throne, and I boost it with Marchesa's Dethrone trigger. Rob takes 2 damage. I like Marchesa. She's completely apolitical, only attacking whoever has the most life and nothing else. June triggers the Woodfall Primus Persist after the Necromancy falls off when it comes back and blows up Ronnie's Garrick. Rob casts Fact or Fiction on my end step and chooses me. I make a pile of Tezzeret and Thassa because Tezzeret gets you a lot of mana and I don't want him to have Capsize with that mana. The second pile is Capsize, Cold-Eyed Selkie, and Brushland, which is the one he takes. Keep that Capsize in mind for later, it's going to be relevant. On Rob's turn 5, he starts by rolling damage with his Mana Crypt. Rob casts Exploration and then plays 2 lands off the top of his library, Mystic Gate, and Maze of Ith. Rob gains 2 life from his Courser of Krufix trigger. Rob declines to attack and passes the turn. Chad's Cryptghast will live another turn apparently. On Ronnie's turn, he casts Dosin the Falling Leaf. Josh and Rob both have instants in their deck, but neither of them do anything to stop the Dosin, although Rob does cast Enlightened Tutor in response to search up Phyrexian Metamorph and put it on top of his library. Ronnie just passes after that, apparently short on mana. Josh casts Grim Monolith, and his commander, Brago King Eternal. Josh also declines to attack. Not too much hate going on at the moment. On Chad's turn, he plays the land every mono-black player loves, Cabal Coffers. He then casts Nurkana Revenant for even more manas. He then is still able to cast Kajimaro, First to Suffer, but does not have any leftover mana to be able to use it this turn. On June's turn, he starts by attacking Chad for 5 with his Primus, since Chad has all the mana right now. Chad starts to block with Kajimaro until he realizes that the Primus has Trample and instead just takes the damage. June continues not playing land and then evokes Shriekmaw to blow up Josh's commander, which he sends back to the command zone. On my turn, I cast Dax Duplicant and copy Josh's Sarah Ascendant, clone count 1. This seems like a better play than copying June's Woodfall Primus, but unfortunately, it is going to put me on the throne and turn off a big part of my deck with the Dethrone. I attack Josh since he has the most life with the Hasty Serra Ascendant, which is boosted and triggers 2 Dethrone instances, making it 8/8. Josh takes 8 damage and I gain 8 life. I miss my 5th land drop and pass the turn. Turn 6. Rob attacks June for 4 with his Centaur. Rob draws a card from his Sword of Fire and Ice trigger and deals Dosen 2 damage so that he can cast Instance again. Rob then plays 2 lands off the top of his library and gains as many life. Rob then casts Phyrexian Metamorph, copying June's Woodfall Primus, clone count 2. He blows up Chad's Cabal Coffers. Rob breaks Flooded Strand, but gains the life right back. Turn 7. Rob takes 3 damage and goes to 37. Rob draws an extra card from Chad's Anvil of Bogarden and discards a card. Rob plays Brushland from hand and gains a life. Rob equips his Primus with Sword. He then attacks me and I go to 48. Rob draws a card and deals 2 damage to Trinket Mage, which I guess is more threatening than Chad's Cryptghast. Rob then casts Academy Rector and Bribery, targeting June, getting Overseer of the Damned, a sweet card, but unfortunately killing Marchesa. On Ronnie's turn, he finally casts his commander Xenagos, but then just passes. Josh attacks me for 8, 2 commander damage. He blinks things and then casts Sun Titan, returning Crystal Shard to the battlefield and then passes. Chad plays Swamp, casts Soul Ring. He then casts Sheoldred Whispering One, and finally uses the Cryptghast Extort mechanic, draining a soul for 1 life and gaining him 5 life. Not bad. Chad then attacks Ronnie for 7 with his Nirkana Revenant since he is open. June forgets to sack a creature on his upkeep from Sheoldred and draw an extra card from Chad's Anvil. He casts Far Wanderings with Threshold and puts 3 basic lands into play. Pretty nice. I also forget to do those things on my turn and play Scalding Tarn and then sack it, paying a life. June and I remember to sack creatures and Rob gets zombies. I cast Olivia Valdarin and Necropotence. I then attack Chad for 9 in the air after Dethrone triggers. I then gain 9 life. I then pay 6 life into Necropotence, completely forgetting that Anvil is in play and I have an unlimited hand size. Oh well. Turn 8. Rob untaps so many lands, sacks a zombie on his upkeep to Sheoldred, draws 2 cards, discards 1, floats 13 mana, casts Finest Hour, and Elspeth Knight Errant, and Rafiq of the Many. Pluses Elspeth to jump the Primus, and then attacks June for 26 damage. Rob draws 2 cards from the 2 Sword of Fire and Ice triggers, and deals 4 damage to Chad's Nirkana Revenant, killing it. Rob then goes to his second attack phase, attacks Ronnie, and triggers more Exalted. Ronnie is set to take 30 damage this time, but Josh is such a buddy that he saves Ronnie by bouncing the Woodfall Primus with Crystal Shard, since Rob has no mana open. On his next main phase, Rob plays 2 lands from the top of his deck and gains 2 life. He passes. On Ronnie's turn, he draws 2 cards and discards Genesis during his draw step. He then plays Untapped Stomping Ground with 2 damage and casts Sylvan Library. Still with no creatures, Ronnie just passes. Usually Ronnie has ripped off way more people's faces at this point of the game. Turn 9. Josh stacks Serra Ascendant during his upkeep. Josh attacks Brago at Chad and Sun Titan at Rob, who blocks with his Academy Rector. Sun Titan returns Lightning Greaves to play. Chad takes 2 commander damage and Josh blinks his things. The Rector tables Mirari's Wake when it leaves play, Post-combat, Josh bounces Sun Titan with his shard and then casts Austere Command, choosing to blow up.
So all dudes.
Yeah, or do all dudes.
Neglecting Rob's Mirari's Wake, which is going to have a big impact on the game. Rob gets no less than 7 zombies from his Overseer trigger. Chad lets his commander go to the graveyard so he can draw 2 cards from his Skull Clamp. Chad casts Crypt Rats on his turn. June casts Satyr Wayfinder and reveals no lands, but puts 4 creature cards into his yard, and then casts his commander for 3 since his yard is absolutely full of creatures. June pays 2 life and casts Birthing Pod. On my turn, I skip the Anvil effect due to Necropotence and overload Vandal Blast, mainly to check Rob's ridiculous board state. I then cast Baleful Strix and draw a card. I then pay 3 life into Necropotence and then draw that many cards on my end step. Turn 9. Rob casts Oracle Moldiah and Future Sight. The top card of his library is double revealed. Rob then casts Knight of the Reliquary off the top of his library and Seedborn Muse, Island, Mox Diamond, Vesuva. Rob then attacks June for 21 with his 7 3/3 zombies. June blocks 1 but still takes lethal. June reveals that he was a scientist. Oh, and we used islands to represent scientists. We don't have the cards for this game yet. What creature would make a good scientist? Rob then makes a soldier with Elspeth and then passes and then untaps his mini lands. Ronnie draws 2 extra cards during his draw phase with his Sylvan Library, paying 8 life. Ronnie then casts Borborygmos Enraged and hits it with Xenagos. Ronnie then attacks Chad for 14. Ronnie reveals 3 non-land cards off the top of his library with his Cyclops trigger. At the end of Ronnie's turn, Rob is going to do more than Ronnie did this turn when he flashes into Fairy, Mage of someplace, and then casts Noble Hierarch off the top of his library. Rob then caps 3 of my permanents back to my hand with buyback. Realizing how out of control Rob is getting, Chad finally pops his Crypt Rats for 5, dealing 5 damage to everything and everyone, killing both Rob's Teferi as well as his Seedborn Muse, so he won't be able to untap. Also, Chad redirects the damage to Elspeth instead of Rob. On Josh's turn, he casts Mana Crypt, Sun Titan, returning Lightning Greaves. Josh then equips the Sun Titan and attacks Elspeth with it, returning Grim Monolith and finishing off the Planeswalker. Post-combat, Josh then suspends Riftwing Cloudskate and passes. Chad plays Polluted Delta and casts Coffin Queen. Chad sacks Polluted Delta, going to 3 life, and then casts Solemn Simulacrum, getting another swamp and passing. On my turn, I cast Glenalendra Archmage and Demonic Tutor to get Cyclonic Rift in hopes of returning some of Rob's powerful spells next turn. I pass. Turn 10. On Rob's turn, he casts Wargate off the top of his library for 8, which I counter with Glenalendra. He then casts Crucible of Worlds off the top of his library. Rob casts Phyrexian Metamorph and copies Lightning Greaves. Clone count 3. He then casts Chromatic Lantern, also off the top of his library. He then recasts Rafiq of the Many and equips it with the Greaves. In response, Josh casts Swords to Plowshares on Rafiq, which Rob counters with Bant Charm off the top of his library. I counter the charm with Glenalendra. Rob gains 4 life when the Swords resolves. Rob then casts Stonehewer Giant and equips it with Greaves, but fortunately doesn't have enough mana to activate it this turn. Rob attacks Chad for 6 with the Giant, and Chad blocks with the SS Robot. It dies and Chad draws a card. Rob then attacks me for 7 on his next attack phase. On Ronnie's turn, he still can't tell who anyone is. crazy format we are playing here. Ronnie casts Hydra Omnivore and is glad that I spent all my resources going after Rob so he can try to take me out of the game now. He boosts the Hydra with Xenagos and attacks me for 23 damage with his creatures. I take 23 and everyone other than Ronnie takes 16 from the Hydra, which kills Chad, who turns out was just another scientist. This means that between Josh, Ronnie, Rob, and I, one of us is the thing and one of us is the hero. Ronnie puts land into his hand with Borborygmos' ability and then discards a land from Borborygmos to shoot and finish me off. The only problem is that I am the thing. I regenerate by going back up to 80 life and drawing 7 cards. Now the cat's out of the bag. I now have to kill Josh, Ronnie, and Rob all by myself. Let's see if I can do it. Josh gets back his Crystal Shard on his turn and recasts Brago. I don't have much of a board state anymore, so it's unlikely I'm even going to be able to stabilize, let alone win. I start my turn by casting Reanimate to get back my Dax Duplicant and copy Sun Titan. Clone count 4 and I lose 4 life. I return my Lightning Greaves to the battlefield with Sun Titan's ability. I then attack Rob for 6. Sadly, I can't dethrone after going to 80 life. Marchesa is apparently not the commander to play the thing as. I return a Baleful Strix to play with the Sun Titan trigger and deal Rob 6 damage. I draw a card. I then get Taxian Probe to look at Rob's hand. It looks like this. There is absolutely nothing I can do about the capsize. I have Cyclonic Rift in hand, but Josh's Archmage will stop it from resolving. I pass the turn. Turn 11, last turn of the game. Capsize aside, Rob just goes for the kill this turn. He has more than enough mana to recast Rafiq, hit it with Rogue's Passage, equip it with Sword and Lightning Greaves. I try to Cyclonic Rift in response, Overload, but it's countered by Josh, and that is the game. I die 2 turns in a row, which is pretty dumb. Rob's deck was too powerful. Not only that, but once it was revealed that I was the thing, it basically became arch enemy, sans the schemes, which means I had next to no chance. My missing land drops earlier in the game and having had my lands bounced by Rob ensured that I would not be able to mount a successful comeback once I regenerated. Drawing 7 cards after I died was nice, but it wasn't that helpful since I couldn't play most of them short on mana. Rob and Josh at certain points of the game announced that they weren't the thing, which didn't help me. Oh, and Rob was the hero as well. Well, that's our game and the finale in this series. How did you guys like our take on the format? Let us know what you thought in terms of both actual gameplay as well as flavor. Did it remind you at all of the movie? Thanks for watching, and I hope it was worth the wait. We'll get back to our normal videos next time. What did you think, Kurt? 23. I will take 23.
What are you at?
I'm at 1, and you guys all take 16.
Alright. Trigger.
You're dead.
Yep.
What are you?
Ruination goes to the yard.
11.
He's a scientist. See?
0.
What the
Fucking
fuck?
told you.
23.
Tristan, I'm gonna shoot you.
Who plays an? Who searches their deck for an anvil?
Yes!